Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2, The Passenger. So, for anyone who hasn't checked out my review for the first episode of this season, definitely check that out. It's like the only thing I've done since having a kid, so please check it out. It's like, it felt good to do a freaking video. Also, I'm wearing a different sweatshirt than that. I was wearing somehow my friend, she got me a freaking, I don't know how, in Detroit, Michigan, but she found a place that had a sweatshirt that was the Star Wars logo and stuff, but in French. Don't know how, but that's what I was wearing. And I was like, for this, obviously, we're on a nice planet. I gotta go with my 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back sweatshirt. So this episode I loved. I loved the first episode, and I don't know if it's just because it was like a slightly spooky moment and just the way it played out when they landed on the planet, but just like the segment where they're being chased, period. I was like, I don't know. Like that, it almost blew out everything from the last episode just because it was like a creepy moment. And I love the way it was handled. The whole episode was really entertaining. And of course, we have the Mandalorian and the child. They're headed back from their mission from the last episode. Speeder bike gets destroyed. Very tragic. Favorite vehicle in all of Star Wars. So that gets destroyed. Mando beats everybody up, naturally. And I love the way they handled it because I was like, obviously, he's gonna destroy this dude. I don't know what's gonna happen. He's going to beat this guy up. I didn't think Boba Fett was going to show up, which I have to reference that for anyone that didn't see my last review or for anyone that did. I just forgot to talk about Boba Fett popping up at the very end of the episode. Didn't mention it. Super cool. Amazing. Moving on. Beats everybody. The dude's like, okay, you got the kid. Hey, you want the backpack? Sure. Here you go. The jetpack, I should say. Puts it on the ground. Trade off. The guy's running off with it. And then he just hits a remote control. I was like, okay, this dude's an idiot because he's like, okay, here's the kid. I got the jetpack. I'm out of here. I'm like, it's a Mandalorian. You could probably be 100 miles away, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was just like in his helmet or just like put his finger under the helmet and just went like, yeah, I can feel that on my glove. And he just shot in the air. I'd be like, yeah, he'd kill him. It didn't even make sense. I'm like, he's gonna just shoot you in the back. But instead, it was even funnier, and he was just like, okie dokie. And he just remote controlled the jetpack way up into the sky, and the dude just drops to his death. And I was like, that kind of sucks. Like, that just kind of effed up a little. Like, the amount of fear that would have to be going through that dude's head, where it's just like, okay, I got away. I totally did it. It worked. And then he's just up in the air, and then eventually it's wiggling around, and he let go. He lost grip, and just game over. And I was like, that sucks, because I think technically speaking, he was the only one that died. I think there were 4 people, so maybe he was the second person. But like the other 2 guys, technically, he ziplined the gun and pulled it over. They got hit in the head and they passed out on a rock. So I was like, they're technically okay. He's dead. Like he fell face first from who knows how high up, and game over. That little dude was crushed. Like he was crushed under his own weight. I don't know, the level of G's on Tatooine, but I'm sure it was enough to kill that guy. So he's dead. And the Mandalorian's like, all right, cool. Put his jetpack back on, picked everything up, and he's just traveling into town. So, of course, he ends up back at the bar. It was like, they're on Tatooine. It was like, okay, has to go back to the bar. So, he gets some extra information. We find out that, supposedly, we shall see in the next episode, I guess, there's a contact who knows where the Mandalorians are, or at least, some Mandalorians. So, I'm excited to see how this plays out in episode 3. We'll see if, it's true or not. And that's kind of been the main focus of kind of this journey. It's like, all right, he needs to get to other Mandalorians so that he has a network that he can trust and go from place to place, and he can ask them for information and also have a slight bit of extra protection. So unfortunately, he has to go. I forgot what he said. It wasn't slow speed, but normal speed, whatever it was, sub speed. I think that's what he said, or sub light. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I never really thought of that having its own actual term. And it's like, all right, it's very dangerous, but I need this information. So he goes. And of course, here comes some X-Wings. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. We see some X-Wings. That's nice. The good guys are here. It's no big deal. And so it's like, hey, you don't have a ping. And, pre-Empire, didn't really need one. I was like, yeah, sorry, but that's, those old days, new days now. So it's just, ping, good to go, buddy. It's like, And, he's doing his thing. He's trying to talk. And I was like, how long is this going to go for? Where it's not gonna work, obviously. And so he's talking. It's like, oh well, if you don't have a ping, you're gonna have to follow us here. He's like, oh, here we go, and he pings it. It's like, hey, can you switch to channel 2? And I was like, let's see what happens. And then you see the excellent. I love that they did it this way. And it's just like he looks over and it's just like, and it opens up. And I was like, and they both just open up, and it's like, that's attack mode, and it's over. And so, of course, he takes off because they referenced the episode from the last season when he goes on that mission in the prison. So that was super funny. I love the way they handled that, and he was just like, okay, and he just dives down. Cool scene. I love the fact that, you know, they're flying through like just a normal planet. We actually get to see like clouds and stuff like that, and it's not just in space. So I like when they do that because it is actually kind of rare for Star Wars to pull that off. It's typically, you know, they're in space and it's either debris or it's asteroids. So we got to see it on an actual planet. I feel like you mostly see that from everything that's not in the movies. We saw it once in The Force Awakens, and I guess technically, you know, they did fly around quite a bit in the new trilogy. Like on actual planets, but most of the time that's like the cartoons and stuff like that. It's from a lot of the shows where you get to have those moments on planets. So I thought it was cool. You know, he's flying around, and then he manages this cool escape. Go through. They do a mini trench run in the ice. I thought that was nice. And then, you know, seemingly safe landing, spins the ship, cuts the engines back into a wall really quick. It's like, cool, lost visual, everything's fine. Let's sit here for a second, and then of course the ground crumbles, and so they're screwed over. And so things get a little cold. It's like, all right, speech happens. The droid gets redone, which I thought was kind of a cool way to pull that off. So the woman, whatever the species, you know, that she was, basically a frog, she's able to hack the android, and it's like, hey, here's what's happening. This is serious. What the F? And then she totally called him out like, I guess Mandalorians aren't that cool. So obviously he got up and he fixed his ship. She ends up finding a hot spring. And sadly, this is all the child. Like, this whole episode was him just effing up. It was like, let me eat these eggs. I don't care if they're her babies. I'm going to eat like 5 of them. Even at the very end of the episode, he looked and she was like, And then he's just like, okay. I already got one anyway. And it was like, dang, he's just killing her kids. And so, of course, he's told no. So he walks and it's like, oh, these little stones. And as soon as they went in there, in my head, I was like, this is on some aliens type junk. And of course, they weren't rocks. They, of course, were eggs. And he ripped one open and he ate one. And he's just eating them up. And so, of course, that sends out some sort of shockwave or whatever happened. Somebody sent something. And then all the little sacks start shaking. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. So then, like, all the little spiders break out. And then, like, oh, as they start to kind of come over this little ridge, it's like, you get like small, medium, and I'm like, they're getting bigger the further in we go to like this little dark cave. And of course, the giant one comes out and it's like, okay, we got ice spiders, which is super cool. They have a name. I think it's the Kanak or something like that. I saw that on Google. I didn't know the name. But I think that's the name. And so of course they have the scene. They're running and, you know, he's blasting and stuff like that. They had the cool scene where they were seemingly surrounded, because I'm like, it's spiders. He has to use the flamethrower. They're going to get surrounded and he has to do it. But I love the way they showed it, where maybe it was something special that they're saving to show later, but we've never seen him do that before, where he literally charged it and it was like the blue flame was like getting sharp and it was like a charge flame, and then, you know, they take off, and I was like, okay, I think we might get to see an actual full visual of that later in the season, because we've seen him use the flamethrower, so it's like, oh, you know, boom, flamethrower, like we've seen that before, but we've never seen him do that charge move, and he like held his arm up and it was like a blue flame sparked and it was like charging, making a noise, and then something went off. So I want to see that, because that seems like it would be really cool to see in the fight. So I'm looking forward to seeing that somewhere down the line. We see like a full visual of that move. But they keep taking off. The whole ship actually gets swarmed. I love that scene where I was like, okay, so they're gonna do that, and somebody, you know, he's gonna pull something and then close the ship off, but he doesn't, because he didn't have anything to do that with. And so they have to actually go into the cockpit, and he's shooting as much as he can, and then a couple get around, you know, the child. I keep wanting to call him Baby Yoda still, but I know he's just the child. And then the woman actually shoots a couple of spiders off of him, and then of course we hit the flamethrower at the door, because I was like, that was what he should have done from the very beginning, was just boom, flamethrower. And so of course he does that, and it's like, all right, we're surrounded, I got low visuals, but we're gonna make it out. Flip some switch, we're flying up. They had the music playing, which is the funniest thing. Is like, you know, it was swelling up. It was like boom, and the giant one just drops back down on them. Hilarious. I thought that was so funny. And so I was like, how are they, you know, somehow they're gonna get out of this. And fortunately for them, the X-Wings, you know, the X-Wing pilots, they come back in. They end up just blasting everything, kill all the little spiders off. And they're like, okay, so here's how this happens. We got the ping. You were wanted for this. However, there's a bunch of security footage. You let out one guy, but you captured 3. And you even, risked your own life to save someone, who was Anakin Skywalker, by the way. If you guys didn't know that from that episode, that was the voice actor for Anakin in the Clone Wars. So it was like, you risked your life to protect him, and you caught 3 other people. And so I was like, all right, we'll let you go. Because I love that he was like, how about I forego the bounty? You guys help me out. And it's like, how about you put that ping on, and we don't have to arrest you next time? And it was like, okie dokie. And so, of course, they take off. And it's like, all right, I'm going to weld this together. this is all we got. Like, we exist in this cockpit. It's gonna be a long ride, and then they go off, and that's the end of the episode. And I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic episode. The visuals I thought were fantastic. Like, just the way it looked with them on the planet, I was like, this just looks nice. Like, every little part of it. Maybe it's just because some part of it looked realistic. I think that's honestly the best way I could describe it. Even as they were flying, because typically, they're flying around so fast, everything is still CG. Like, they're flying through the air. That's not real. But the way it looked, I was like, either the CG is just great, or they used a drone or something, like a 4K drone, and actually caught some of this footage, because it just looked realistic. And also, I do have a 4K TV, so maybe the CG just even looks better because of that as well. But I was like, everything just looks real, even as they're flying around. And so I loved it even more for the visuals. But all in all, fantastic episode. It was definitely that, all the episodes really are kind of bottleneck episodes, but I love this one. And just, horror is my favorite genre, even though that was like the one creepy moment. You just get a swarm of space spiders, and I'm just like, yeah, that's sweet. I loved it. It was just fun to watch, and it's like, okay, time to go. Like, let's get out of here. And he's just blasting and trying to survive, and throwing bombs around. I love the way that they handled that chase sequence. It was freaking fantastic. I would love to see that happen again. But lightning can't strike twice. It's gonna be something else amazing. It won't be that, but something else amazing will happen down the line. But love the episode. There's not too much to talk about. Like, that was definitely the big one. The chase sequence was great as well. Like I said, them opening up their wings was hilarious to me, because I was like, that's attack mode. So I thought that was super funny. But love the episode. I'm excited for this next one to see if we get a decent chunk of information story-wise, and kind of actually propel things forward for, like, the main story for this season. But either way, 2 great episodes in. I don't know if this one's going to be 8 episodes as well, but either way, I'm sure they're going to be fantastic. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this one, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. What other elemental planets would you guys like to see? More forest planets, more, I don't know if you guys want more, even more desert planets, maybe some water planets, something like that. I would love to know. I think Mustafar is like the only one they've shown in the movies. But I'm sure there are other, like, magma and lava planets. I don't know if they would ever actually pull that off in The Mandalorian, or why they would need to go to that planet. But, I mean, didn't really need to go to an ice planet. It just happened to be that way, and it's like, crap, here we go. So I would love to know what sort of elemental planets you guys would like to see. So definitely want to know that. And like I said, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And, of course, thanks for watching.